Since inception of Civil War, the Nigerian government has come up with a series of economic policies to revive the ailing economy. It doesn't only lie in the hands of government, as associations, organizations and even individuals have their roles to play. Stick with us for the next 30 minutes as I tell you what a union has in plan to do to help revive the ailing economy. Welcome to Business Nigeria. I'm Tolu Ogunjobi. A warm welcome to you again. The Association of Senior Staff of Banks, Insurance and Finance Institutions, which is an affiliate of Trade Union Congress, held the opening ceremony of the 9th National Delegates Conference in Abuja to discuss how workers can be empowered. Correspondent Sharon Ijason was at the event and brought back this report.
The Association of Senior Staff of Banks, Insurance and Financial Institutes, ASBIFI, held a 9th Triennial National Delegates Conference here in Abuja. During the opening ceremony held in Abuja here today, the trade unions spoke about roles that they can play in ensuring that the economy is growing.
We are the wealth creators of this country. So what we charge our colleagues in the financial sector is to make sure that we move away from this idea of depending on oil to diversifying into agriculture, solid minerals, tourism, and other non-oil sectors that will enhance the development and improvement of our internal generated revenue.
Over the years, ASBIFI has been at the forefront of diversification of our economy. We've been engaging in agric and agro-allied businesses. We expect that every layer of the society, whether it is the local government, the state government, the federal, and every segment of the society should also go into that. But if you look at it over the years, the only thing we have known how to do very well was agriculture. Most of the monuments you can point out today, the Cocoa House, the Kano Pyramid, Granite Pyramid, the Enugu Coal House, and the rest of them, they are from the proceeds of agric and agro-allied businesses. So we need to go back to what we were doing very well before oil came with a very big monster called corruption.
Growing the economy via agriculture and exploring tourism are many ways in which labor leaders here believe will actually remove Nigeria away from the economic recession it's faced with at the moment. However, members of ASBIFI and other trade unions believe that labor will be able to create wealth if workers are engaged from time to time. Sharon Ijason, TVC News, Abuja.
Well, we're going to break now and we'll be back with more on the show. Stay with us. Thanks for staying tuned. You're still watching Business Nigeria, and we're looking at efforts of association, unions and all that in trying to help reactivate and rejig the economy. We've been trying to get the president of the new president of ASBIFI, but having some challenges, but we will still try to connect to the president to get his own views or have views on the show. But in the studio with me here, I have my colleague who's the labor correspondent, Sharon Ijason, who was there at Abuja at the conference, and she's going to be giving me more insight into it. Sharon, good to have you on the show. Now, the theme of the conference, just a little bit of an overview. How was it and what was the thrust of it?
Well, the thrust of it is looking at the economic situation of the country and what role the trade union can actually play to ensure that they grow the economy. Looking at the economic recession that Nigeria is faced with, we can actually say, looking at the minimum wage that we receive now is just about 18,000 naira, of which you know that's not enough take-home salary for an average worker. So what we're looking at right now, Labour leaders have actually had so many complaints from their members, and they're looking at what they can do to ensure that one of the primary responsibility of Labour, which is to create wealth, is being strengthened. So what I observed as a reporter or as a correspondent in Abuja is that I observed that we saw different people from different sectors coming together to discuss and analyze ways in which they can improve the economy. There was a representative from the Ministry of Labour to represent the Minister of Labour. The PAM secretary was on ground to discuss. So we also have someone from the Central Bank of Nigeria that came together, and there was a memorandum, an MOU that actually came up to see what can be done. We all know that everybody is trying to move away from petrol, the oil and gas. So you understand that fact. You understand the fact that there's a paradigm shift towards agriculture. So also they are also looking at tourism as another way to ensure that Nigeria economy is being boosted up, to ensure that workers actually have enough to actually relate with in the economy.
Great. Before I go to my next question, something just came to my mind. The banking sector has been having series of challenges. Sacking of workers, though not restricted to the banking sector, the outsourcing issues and all that. Did they talk about, let's talk about first, because they've been having some issues, because we know some protests and all that against the sacking because I know outsourcing is a big one, which we definitely are going to talk about. But did they say anything concerning that? Are the unions planning to do anything maybe to, protect the workers?
First, and as an observer, I would really say that the theme of that program was just to elect a new leader. But as a journalist, it deems it right for me to actually ask questions. And I asked some of the leaders there, that's what's happening. We have outsourcing of staff actually taking over the day. We also have workers that are being sacked on a daily basis. You really need to have someone that really works in the bank to know how bad it is. And it's surprising that the labor movement has not been able to do something concrete as regards protecting the rights of workers. But during my interviews with these leaders, they actually made me understand that the judiciary system has a very huge role to play with. Because according to Nigerian laws, outsourcing of staff is allowed. So we are looking at a possibility of our laws which are obsolete being updated, looking at as regards the changes that is happening in the economic situation of the country. So the labor leaders have actually seen this as a big challenge, because whenever they go and protest, whenever they go to the drawing board again to negotiate with those people, they realize that they still have to go back to the judiciary system, which does not protect the workers. So the judiciary sector has been urged once again to ensure that they go back to the drawing table, to ensure that our laws are up to date to protect workers' rights. And as regards outsourcing and sacking of staff, especially the outsourcing, the labor leaders made me understand that outsourcing of staff is not the best way to go out of recession. Banks, year in, year out, month in, month out, they come out with their profits. And it's in billions of dollars. So why must it be the workers that would suffer for this? So there is a debt. We all know that there's a need. They need workers to work, but because of the Nigerian law that does not protect workers' rights, it's something now that has become the order of the day, that they keep sacking workers or outsourcing workers. And most times this happens in the operations department. And we've realized over the years that most of the 80% fraud, according to the research that I did, 80% of fraud that happen in the banking sector happens from the operations department, whereby we have disgruntled workers who are being paid peanuts to actually carry millions of dollars activities on a day-to-day activities.
How would you someone is you're asked to take care of something and you're not being properly taken care of. I think there's a disconnect somewhere. Now back to diversification, which has become, I see it as it's a word everybody now wants to use. It's a new word, just like we have recession now, we have diversification too. Talking about looking at other sectors, how do the labor guys also think they can really come into play? We're looking at agriculture, we're looking at solid minerals, we're looking at so many of all these sectors. I see a situation whereby there needs to be, I think, a synergy between the labor leaders. I think the government, and also the practitioners in these very, very sectors? I don't know. What are they saying they want to do to actually make diversification not just become a word, but really become
practicable?
Yes.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from, but I must let you know that from my own observation, most institutions, I wouldn't say NLC or TUC, but there are some serious-minded associations under these bodies that are serious and ready to do business, and they know that they have to create wealth. I know of so many unions that have hotels. I know of so many unions that are into agriculture. I know of so many so many associations that ensure that they engage their workers from time to time to ensure that we don't have we don't have more people fall into the category of unemployed people. They do trainings from time to time to ensure that their workers are actually well fed and protected, and even though they don't receive their take home is not what it's expected to be, it's being covered up. So that I must say, and I also understand the fact as a journalist that we say that diversification, and there's a lot. It sounds bleak. I understand the fact, but I must say that there are campaigns, and even we journalists, we are doing a lot because we keep saying it, and even within ourselves in the newsroom, we can see this entrepreneurship habits that is growing, and it won't happen within 24 hours. It will take time. We are not used to it. We're used to sitting down, being relaxed, the oil money bringing in revenues into the country, and we exploring that aspect. So we are just, it's a phase. We just got into that phase, and I'm pessimistic that we would actually move away from this recession if we continue at the pace that we are going to. It's not just about lip saying, it's about you doing it, it's about me doing it, it's about everybody going back to the drawing board. You don't have to go to the market to buy vegetable. If you can have a farm in your house and make that little space, you have your vegetables, you could always go back there to use. So it's not about just spending. And I also noticed among labor leaders that are trying to promote made in Nigerian goods. I, as a person, I don't buy imported rice anymore. I do local rice, and it's wonderful. I must confess. So we are getting to that, and I went to a store yesterday and I realized that I was just window shopping, and I realized that there was a particular place whereby we have a bag of rice, and I was like, you don't have basmati? They said, no, we do local rice here, and that's what we give. And I was like, really? They said, it's from Nasarawa. I was like, really? So Nasarawa have good rice? They said, it's really lovely. Because of the Forex exchange, they are also looking inwards. So it's about, are we ready? Do we have these things that can actually meet up? We go to stores, we see imported foods, and we have workers that are ready and have the energy to ensure that we have enough goods and services to serve people. So people are looking inwards, and I realized that the labor movement is also encouraging made in Nigerian goods. So I think that's one of the good steps in the right direction.
It is a good step in the right direction. I'm still going to be having here, my colleague Sharon is still here giving insights. We'll go on a break, and we'll be back with more on this discussion, looking at the labor unions and all that, how they could also help in kickstarting. We all want to diversify this economy, look outwards and look inwards, I beg your pardon, so that we can move forward and stop being a mono-product economy. Stay with us on Business Nigeria. We'll be right back. Thanks for staying tuned. You're still watching Business Nigeria, and we've been discussing issues relating to, particularly in focus, is the Association of Banks and Financial Institutions. They had a conference and talking about diversifying the economy and to contribute their own quota to actualize this. And my colleague that was at that event in Abuja is with me in the studio, giving insights and also trying to put these issues into perspective. She's still here, Sharon Ijasan. Now, Sharon, something just came to my mind during that break. Outsourcing has been on for some time, about the 90s, early 90s and all that. Now, when you get a staff, he stays with you maybe for a year or two, you let go of him, maybe because you don't want to increase his fees or meet his needs as a staff, which is supposed to be as a, you don't want him to leave and you're not getting somebody else. What about issues of training and retraining? How does it now come? Because when you train somebody and you just let go of that person, you bring in somebody new, you have to retrain. That's also, to me, that's another avenue to waste.
It makes a mess of what corporate governance is supposed to be about. Because if you say, and let me also correct you as regards having outsourced a staff for a year or two and let the person go. I would like to inform you that I know of someone that worked in a particular bank that does not even unionize for 15 years. That's over a decade of one's life. I was an outsourced, was a contract staff, for crying out loud. So it's not just about a year or two, it goes on for at least a decade or more. And when they are done with you, they are done with you and they move on. So what we're looking right now here is that when we look at corporate governance, when we look at what you expect of a company that you work with, you realize that most banks are not meeting up to expectations. Because if you look at the history of when outsourcing started in the country, it started in the 90s. So when we look at that stage between that time and now, we realize that we have so much people on the high level still there, but we don't have the younger ones growing up, meeting up to expectation when it comes to what their ability is. As an individual, you could decide you want to train yourself, but professionally, according to the labor laws, there's a role your company is supposed to play in ensuring that they train and retrain you from time to time to ensure that you meet up to world-class standard in which you're supposed to operate in. So it's not, in any organization, because you're the director doesn't mean you have to be on ground before work will be done. So by the time you're not available and work keeps failing, of course there'll be a turnover of the effect or the output on the people that you are offering services to. So these are the issues that actually comes up, and these are the effects of outsourcing of staff. And I would say that the Federal Reserve Bank has also sounded a note of warning to the banking sector that if they continue like this, what they will have in return in a couple of years wouldn't be what they would be expecting. I wouldn't want to mention names here, but it's something that really that the labor movement is consciously aware of. But they've made their words that if the judiciary arm of government could do their own part, that they would be ready to ensure that a stop is being put to this. Because
I think that seems to be important, and not even now that we have dwindling resources all over. Of course, and it's actually making the rate of unemployment also to rise. Because whether you like it or not, they are making profits, and they are supposed to accommodate a large chunk of the unemployment force. But with what is going on now, it's getting to a stage whereby for labor to create wealth, they have to ensure that people's jobs are being sustained. Almost finally, I'd like us to touch on this before we round up. Everybody's aware of the crude oil thing. We're still even having issues. I think over the weekend, there was still a pipeline being blown up around so we're having, our output is actually dropping. I know we are doing between 1.5, 1.8 million barrels per day. And we predicated our budget should be on about 2.2, 2.3. That's what the crude oil production was on. That's at $38 per barrel. Though we're a little bit above that. And this would affect resources to the government. It's obvious. It's clear. Did the Labour guys not talk about minimum wage? What's the latest on that? Because they've been saying the minimum wage you have now can't take you home.
Of course, that's the slogan.
Something like
that's the slogan. But we have to go beyond just talking. We have to act. But also, if you go and meet the federal government right now for any issue, they will let you know. You can, ASU lately went and they told them we can't pay. So they have to also be very careful. But whether you like it or not, the 18,000 naira minimum wage is supposed to have the amount is supposed to have increased before now, because according to the laws of the land, the minimum wage is supposed to be reviewed every 4 to 5 years.
Correct, absolutely.
It's a law. So whether we like it or not, the federal government will still have to go back to the negotiating table to discuss what is obtainable for workers, so that we ensure that we don't have a lot of spillover of people receiving what is not actually acceptable to workers. But I am aware that the Nigerian Labour Congress is proposing 46,000. Then another section is saying maybe 60-something or 70-something thousand. But whatever the amount is, it's a fact that they still have to go back to the drawing table, because it's a law that the wages of workers should be reviewed every 4 to 5 years.
Sharon Ijason, I must thank you for the insight into these issues, breaking it all down for everybody to understand. Well, lots of hope, raising hopes. At least we know where we are going. We have to move out of the dependence on oil and move away from it and move ahead with our country. Thank you again for joining us on Business Nigeria.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Well, on that note, we round it up for today's package on Business Nigeria. Join us another time for more comprehensive analysis and other incisive stories. I am Tolu Lokpe Ogunjobi. I'll leave you with the graphics and figures of the exchange rate as they stand today. On behalf of the entire production crew, thanks for watching.